everybody, and welcome to I Can't Believe It's Not News, your favorite podcast about fake news. I'm Beth.
And I'm Kelly.
Hey, Kelly, how's it going today?
It's going pretty good. How are you, Beth?
Good. I was wondering if you think that we can do this episode in less than, 5 hours. What do you think?
I'll give it my best shot. Make no promises. I got a lot to say all the time.
So last episode, we actually had to split it into two parts because we talked so much.
I do promise that I will try not to cut you off, and I will try to use like a third of the curse words that I used in the last episode. I'm not nearly as mad about this week's topic.
We went a little bit lighter this week, which I think we needed personally. We needed that, and our listeners might need that too. So let's tell them, if you enjoy this episode, where can you find us?
You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at Podcast Fake News. You can email us at podcastfakenews@gmail.com. And you can find us on our blog at podcastfakenews.com as well.
And that's where we post the episode guide, so you can follow along and see all the fun pictures and stories and things that we pull. So what are we going to talk about this week, Kelly?
So we decided to do something a little bit more lighthearted and talk about satire.
I love satire!
Me too.
Yay!
And Beth, if I remember correctly, when we discussed this, there were definitely things that you wanted to talk about and I wanted to talk about. So it sounds like we both focused on satire and just came at it from two different angles, which I think is really fun.
That is our MO. So it was actually funny because what happened is I saw an interview with Macaulay Culkin, and I think it was Jimmy Fallon. There's so many Jimmys on late night, it's hard to keep them all straight. But he started a parody website, basically parodying Goop.
Oh. You posted this on our Facebook page.
Yeah, so he started a website called bunnyears.com and a podcast called Bunny Ears. And I went and looked at it, and he's got some funny stuff up there. It's just getting started, so there's only one episode to the podcast. And I actually went to goop.com for the first time in my life, and that was rough, but it is, I think he's got something kind of funny there. And I just was like, hey, it'd be fun to talk about satire. And then all of this stuff happened with satire. It's kind of crazy how sometimes we say we want to do something for an episode and then the gods just line up and give us all of this stuff about that thing that we want to talk about that specifically is about fake news.
Yeah. And, it's a really fun topic to talk about. I think satire has been really meaningful in the political atmosphere. So that's where I sort of roundabout came to it, was looking more at some of the really great examples we've had of political satire in the past several decades that have really changed the political and news landscape and how it's gone forward.
Yeah, and I just want to be really clear up front. I do not think that satire is fake news. And I think that satire has its place, but there are some problems that have been going on that we're going to talk about. So let's get started, and I love my definitions. So I pulled up the Wikipedia page for satire, and it says it's a genre of literature and sometimes graphic and performing arts in which vices, follies, abuses, and shortcomings are held up to ridicule, ideally with the intent of shaming individuals, corporations, government, or society itself into improvement. So it's basically shaming you into being better. So it says satire is usually meant to be humorous. Its greater purpose is often constructive social criticism, using wit to draw attention to both particular and wider issues in society. And there's a couple of quotes in here that I really liked. One is, the rules of satire are such that it must do more than make you laugh. No matter how amusing it is, it doesn't count unless you find yourself wincing a little even as you chuckle. So, and then I guess so we learned about this thing. It's called the Ig Nobel Prize, which is a parody of the Nobel Prize. And they give them to the 10 unusual or trivial achievements in scientific research. And this is a real award. They give it out at Harvard, and then they do like the winners do a public lecture at MIT. But it's pun on the word ignoble. And if you say it fast, it's the Ig Nobel Prize.
That's good. I like it.
So there's a quote in here, and it says, even lighthearted satire has a serious aftertaste. The organizers of the Ig Nobel Prize describe this as, first make people laugh and then make them think. So that's kind of a quick overview of what satire is. So I want to ask you, Kelly, what's something that you love about satire?
Well, I feel like I've grown up with satire. My father used to watch SNL religiously, and he would tape it so that I could watch it when I was young.
Yes.
And I always felt like he used to get me Mad magazines, and as I got older, he let me look at some of his old National Lampoons, and it was just a thing that I felt really smart because I felt like I was learning a lot about politics, but it wasn't a chore like watching the news.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of the generation that's what has sprung up into things like The Daily Show. You know, that's where we started with this alternative journalism where it's basically a satirical look at the news, but still giving you factual information.
Right. Because satire, although it can be just something that's made up, it can also be real news just with this like slant to it that is laughing at it too, which can be hard to understand sometimes, maybe that difference. But I love satire. The Onion, I love. And in researching for this episode, I found another website called National Report. It says America's shittiest independent news source. And their article up front here says Trojan name new ultra thin skin condom after Donald Trump. So let me read that again. So Trojan, like the condom company. So it should be Trojan names new ultra thin skin condom after Donald Trump. I'm sorry, it just made my day. And then there's one down here that says Alex Jones suggests flying false flag at half-staff for Texas church shooting victims. Which, in it, there's so much wrong with that.
That's ridiculous.
And it just makes me laugh.
So ridiculous.
But,
that's great.
You know, the thing is that sometimes we need some satire in our life. Like, we need to laugh at some of this crap that's going on, right?
Right. I'll tell you, my favorite satire site, I used to really like The Onion, but it wasn't really all that political and it didn't really speak to me. I would see a couple of articles, they'd be really funny, but I wouldn't get stuck on their website. The website that I get stuck on these days is Reductress.
Oh, really?
Which is like, it's like a feminist Onion, and they have a bunch of articles, and we had talked about one that is more realistic, but I mean, if we're just going down straight satire, my absolutely favorite article I've ever read on there is a whole slideshow, and it's Gatsby themed wedding ideas that say, I didn't read the book. And it's
nice.
It's fucking amazing because I know so many people who've had like Gatsby themed parties where they still aren't getting the actual, I mean, I love The Great Gatsby. It's one of my favorites. It's so well written. I love the story. And I love that the whole idea is it's, you know, beware of living to excess. It doesn't mean you're going to have a happy life.
Right.
And it's that short. That's what you need to know about the story. And everyone misses it. They're like the champagne tower, right, and they've got the fancy dresses and they want to have all the diamonds and the pearls and they want to party. And I'm like, that's
not the point of The Great Gatsby.
Yeah. I think you may have missed the point.
You're actually just having a 20s themed costume party.
Yeah, that's
which
fine.
Is totally, yeah, I would go to that 100% of the time. But yeah, gotcha. That's, yeah. So on the flip side of things that we love about satire, I also want to ask you about things that we don't love about satire. And I have an example here. And I had posted this on our Facebook page when it came out. So it really made me just kind of sick yeah, it was gross. So this is from a site that says that it's satire, and it says breaking: Chuck Schumer's daughter breaks her silence about her dad's affair with a high school cheerleader. Now, there is nothing ever funny about sexual assault or making up accusations about people, like real people, about sexual assault charges. This is ridiculous. Like this is not satire.
Yeah, and that makes it seem like he's almost like a pedophile.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's gross. No one wants to have those kind of accusations toward them or, even going the other way.
Right.
I don't understand how that could even be considered satire.
Yeah, and some guy behind a computer is going, oh, it was just a joke. Yeah, no, like, people are going to believe this, and we're going to talk about people who believe satire, but, like, you can't, it's not responsible to put this type of bad satire out there, I think, in my opinion. And I think it's a problem because I really love satire, and I don't want satire to have this stain on it.
Yeah, and I mean, I know when we were talking about bad satire, the one thing that really popped into my head is do you remember the picture that Kathy Griffin took that was released that was her holding a bloody Trump head? And I just felt like there seemed to be no real rhyme or reason for it. It was supposed to be considered satire. And it harkened back to me that old National Lampoon, the most famous cover that they have is the dog, someone's holding a gun to a dog's head and it says, buy this issue or we're going to shoot this dog.
Okay.
And it was disturbing, but it had a point behind it. Like they were like, our magazine's going to go under. It was just supposed to be provocative and funny, but this didn't have the funny element to it. There was no statement.
Right.
It was just bloody and kind of gross. And I mean, I didn't really like the naked Trump's statues that were put around either. I felt like those were in bad taste.
Nobody wants to see that.
I don't know anyone who liked those.
And you know what? I would be really offended if they had put up naked Hillary Clinton statues. Like, it's not about, that's not about politics. That's really just about trying to embarrass somebody. And I first of all,
it was very body shaming.
Yeah, I don't want to see it. It's body shaming, and I would not want you to ever, ever, ever do that to a woman and think that that was okay, right? So, yeah, I agree. That was also not my favorite thing. So, there's things that we love about satire, and there's things that we don't love about satire.
Yes,
but satire is not fake news in what it's supposed to be, right?
Right.
Let's talk about some of the problems that have kind of popped up recently. So the way I see it, problem number one is people take it seriously.
Yes.
So let's talk about this.
Yeah. So I found a Guardian article. The title of the article is As Fake News Takes Over Facebook Feeds, Many Are Taking Satire as Fact. And this article is from Nikki Wolf, and it was published in November of 2016. And what the article basically says is that Facebook, because the whole role of it is to make everything like a suburb where Walmarts have to be the same beige color as the 7-Eleven down the street. Like everything is beige all the time. So there's no way to really tell with just the posting of something if a website is satirical, unless you already know.
Right.
Things like The Onion, most people know. Things like Reductress, people are starting to know. But there is a site that they talked about in this article called Real News Right Now. Now, Real News Right Now does not sound like a satirical site.
No, it sounds like you're going to get some real news right now.
Right, exactly. But they put out an article. It was a Facebook post article, and they use Facebook a lot. The article's title was U.S. to house 250,000 Syrian refugees at Navajo, Standing Rock Indian reservations.
Oh, right.
That doesn't sound real.
No, not at all.
But instead of looking it up or, maybe putting in the slightest bit of effort, of course, Hannity and Trump both repeated it, which means Hannity said it and Trump repeated it.
And you know what is so gross about that is, first of all, it makes it sound like the U.S. owns like Indian reservations, and then they can just be like, oh, we're going to place these people here. Like, this is this is where we place people, is at our reservations that we have control over.
Yes.
So first of all, that's not how that works, which is the first clue that this is a satire article.
Right.
And then it looks like in the article, he was saying like he was trying to think of an unbelievable number. And that's why he went with 250,000. Like he was like, I want to make it ridiculous.
Yeah. He started with something really simple, like 50,000. But I mean, people don't pay enough attention. And that's sort of what the article goes into, is that, you know, Facebook doesn't have a way to indicate that a page is satire. So even sometimes things like The Onion are shared as real news. You and I were talking before about how I had a family member share an Onion article that was incredibly satirical. And it was, I'll tell you, it was Planned Parenthood opens $8 billion abortionplex.
Which, yeah.
They thought that was real.
That's not happening.
No, that's not real. That's, no, that's not ever going to happen. But yeah, I mean, even a representative from Kansas, I think, was fooled by this headline. And my relative. Yes. And one of my relatives as well. Yeah. Because why not?
I mean, to be honest, Kansas, I'm not surprised. Like they're super ultra conservative there, and they were like, oh my God, abortion. So yeah.
Yeah. Like so many other states. Oh my God, stop it. It's obviously real. You guys, it's all the fear and, you know, what can we use to make you feel like you're threatened so that you're a victim, so you vote for us. So what I did want to pull out of this article that I thought was really important was Melissa Zimdars, the assistant professor of communication and media at Merrimack College in Massachusetts. She gave a bit of a rundown of what people can do. And I felt like this was an important point to pull out. And what she said is one thing readers can do is to read what they're sharing. And after that, if you read something and have a strong reaction to it, read more about it rather than just accept what you originally read as complete information.
Right.
So I know some people have seen that little animated video of, you know, oh, you see this really crazy headline and half of it is people get really mad and they share it on Facebook or social media or on Twitter. And then the other half, you can actually check out the information, see that it's false, and then not be angry all the time, because obviously there are people who are going to make up fake news stories and satire that is not real, that doesn't, it's meant to be a joke, but some people can't take a joke.
Right.
So, and that goes on both sides. That is not a partisan issue at all. Like there might be, I mean, I was trying to find Facebook pages that were satirical, and the ones I could find were just the easiest bottom to scrape off, you know, because they were Christian satirical.
Right.
And they put easy keywords in their names. But like, conservatives for Trump and, Christians for Michelle Bachmann, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Like, Miss Betty Bowers, America's Best Christian. Those are really easy to find because they show up a lot. Like the God one is a good sort of satire. It started out as more of a satire type Facebook page. Yeah. But a lot of those they're hard to spot unless you know this is definitely satirical. Like you have to take them to extremes sometimes so that people even know that they're satirical.
Because good satire is supposed to make you laugh and then make you think. So it does need to be based in some truth in order to meet those 2 points. But there's a point where the truth can maybe go so far that you don't know where that joke is.
Right.
And they talk in here too about another one by the Denver Guardian, which has a long history of creating satire. And I'm going to put that in quotations because I really feel like they're just a fake news.
The Denver Guardian
factory. Yeah.
Isn't that not a real news?
Yeah. No, it's not a real news source.
Okay.
So
that's what I thought.
So they had an article that claimed that an FBI agent was investigating that Clinton had been killed in a house fire in Colorado. And the Denver Post actually had to write an article to clarify that there's no such thing as the Denver Guardian, and pointing out that the story was fake and the site's supposed Denver address actually led to a tree in a Denver car park. So there's been a lot of people who have taken supposed, satire articles that are actually satire or satire articles that are claimed to be satire and have taken them seriously, and it's led to some problems. So I have an example here too from Pointer. They had an article that they put out, and it says, should satire be flagged on Facebook? A Snopes debunk sparks controversy. And this was by Daniel Funk on March 2nd, 2018. And so there's a satire site called the Babylon Bee, and they published an article titled CNN Purchases Industrial-Sized Washing Machine to Spin News Before Publication. Right?
That sounds legit.
Totally
That's
legit.
How it's done.
And they have it's like a picture of a washing machine. And the thing is, this is obviously geared towards conservatives, right? They're making fun of the fact that they think that CNN spins news, right?
Right.
So a bunch of people had submitted the story to Snopes to say, is this true or not? And Snopes fact-checked it and found that it was obviously not true. But then Facebook flagged it because it had been debunked by Snopes. So normally when something is marked as satire, it's not flagged by Facebook. Right. But this one, people were getting the pop-up saying that this story that you are sharing is a fake news. And so the Babylon Bee complained, and the Facebook flag was removed. And Facebook said there's a difference between false news and satire. This was a mistake and should not have been rated false in our system. It's since been corrected, and it won't count against the domain in any way. So there was but a little bit of kind of infighting between Snopes and Facebook on this. And Snopes is kind of hey, we were asked to check this, so we did. And it's not up to us to tell Facebook how to label or flag articles. We did our job and we're out. So, right. But they said that Facebook's existing fact-checking tool leaves little room to distinguish between misinformation and satire, since there's no way to label the content as such. And so it's kind of opened up Facebook to this missing tool that they kind of need to denote articles as satire when they're not fake, but they aren't true. They're satire, right? So, and just on a side note, I did look up the Babylon Bee, and they do look like a pretty solid satire site. It is a Christian satire site, but this one made me laugh. There's an empty bottle of Welch's grape juice, on the side of a road or something. And it says bottle of Welch's grape juice discovered near site of Last Supper. And it talks about how they uncovered this, and that I read it. It was funny. It was they announced that, they actually used Welch's grape juice instead of wine at the Last Supper. Just kind of funny. Just some stuff. Another one on here is, worship leaders order even tighter, skinnier jeans to kick things up. Joel Osteen's Bible spotted shivering under seedy freeway underpass. So anyway, I was oh, they actually is a good site there. But anything else on that you want to talk about on people taking it seriously?
Oh, there was a Reductress article that I saw shared by some people on what I would say more of a liberal slant. So in April 2017, there was an article that Reductress published called Devil's Advocate Boy Statue Erected on Wall Street Next to Fearless Girl. So it was a joke, but it was about someone putting up a statue of a boy staring at the statue that was put up of a little girl that's staring at the statue of the bull on Wall Street.
Right.
And people were like, oh my God, this is so gross. Who would do this? And it went around quite a bit before people really started shutting it down and saying, this is satire. You guys need to, let's bring it down a notch. This is not going high. This is just playing into propaganda, but not real propaganda, because it's not real. It's just playing into, let's have a bit of fun. You don't have to be so serious all the time. And I think there are times that I worry that that's really what the issue is getting to be, is that everyone is so serious now all the time on every side that they forget that you need to take a break from it sometimes, and you need to have some fun with it. I'm glad that Saturday Night Live is becoming more popular again. I could ask for maybe a better person than Alec Baldwin to be playing Trump, because he is so problematic and gross and has been for years, and whatever with his Woody Allen defenses, he can keep it. But I really love Reductress, and I love the fact that it's still fooling people. I see articles every once in a while that I just think that's exactly the kind of burn that some people need.
Yeah.
Is exactly that type of headline where all they really need is a headline and they get you.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we just need to relax and have something to laugh at, especially when there's so much going on that you're just like, oh my God, I want to just crawl into bed and never come out again. Like, sometimes having a laugh can really save your day, I have to tell you, one of my favorite all-time Onion articles, it just made me laugh so hard. It just was so simple. It was like Denver man confounded on where in room to place fern plant, and it was just kind of like it was just so simple. Like, and I'm probably completely misquoting it, but it was like, so-and-so has been trapped in his apartment for 3 days trying to figure out the perfect corner or space for his new fern plant. It was just like written just like a news story would be, like maybe in a small town where there's not much going on, I just remember laughing so hard and just being like, that, you guys got me right there. That was perfect. That was just what I needed to get through my day. Thank you, The Onion, once again. So, and sometimes we do need to laugh, because the next problem is sometimes fake news sites claim that they're satire as their get out of jail free card.
I was just joking.
Yeah, no, you weren't.
No.
There was something going on this week with a Florida teacher who's, okay, so I have this Vox article, and it says, a Florida teacher's racist podcast was uncovered. Can she argue as free speech? And this is by Jen Kirby, and it's from March 5th, 2018. So this Florida middle school teacher, who, it does say allegedly, I think she did it, hosted a white nationalist podcast, has been pulled from the classroom as the school district investigates the claims. And her name is like Diana Volatich. My goodness. And her pseudonym is even worse. Tiana Dolichov. Where are the Smiths? Yeah. Okay. Anyway. So she has this podcast, and she was posting on social media under this pseudonym. And then at school, she was like slipping white nationalist rhetoric into her teachings.
Oh, gross.
Yeah. So here's the thing. She's claiming that her podcast and her posts were political satire and exaggeration. So she's trying to use that little get out of jail free card by claiming that it was satire.
That's gross.
Yeah.
There are some jokes that we just have to live without making them anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you can make that joke because you have certain free speech rights, but no one's going to laugh at that joke, and people are just going to move on, and now they're going to know what kind of person you are.
Well, and if you're teaching this ideology to your middle schoolers, you're not joking about it.
That's where it's really problematic.
It's very problematic. So Snopes also has an article about this same issue. And so they found, this is basically what she said. None of the statements released about my being a white nationalist or white supremacist have any truth to them, nor are my political beliefs injected into my teaching of social studies curriculum. While operating under the Russian pseudonym Tiana Dalavshov, whatever, on social media and the Unapologetic podcast, I employed political satire and exaggeration, mainly to the end of attracting listeners and followers and generating conversation about the content discussed between myself and my guests. And she went on. But this person who she had on her podcast, her name is Lana Lokteff. This is what Snopes said. Likewise, Voltich's defenders on the alt-right don't seem to think that her online remarks were satirical. Alt-right YouTube personality Lana Lokteff, who participated in the podcast, tweeted, for example, that the views that she and Volatik share are rational, honest, and just. And then other alt-right people have come to like defend her. And one of them is named Bree Fauchucks. Can any of these people have normal names? Okay. She tweeted, remember, drag queens with dragon horns can read books to kindergarten kids, but Tatiana Dalshov, fuck is she, is a heretic for believing in race realism as proved by many studies. Total clown world. And then there was the anti-feminist Wife with a Purpose blogger, Isla Stewart, posted a video of herself placing a phone call to the school district during which she said there's nothing wrong with white people advocating for their race. So, yeah, sounds like satire to me. Does that sound like satire to you?
It does. And I mean, I even know the photo that they're talking about, and it's so, I mean, I remember seeing an article about that when we were doing one of our last episodes, and I want to say it was one of those crazy like Federalist websites or some nonsense like that. And it was like Halloween. This person was dressed up for Halloween and reading books
the drag queen
at a library. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And you can clearly, like, if you scroll down and actually see the whole photo, you see that the kids are also in costume.
Right.
But I guess no one paid attention to that fact. And they don't. Just like, look at what is allowed in liberal libraries. Those fucking liberal libraries where they read books to kids.
Aren't all libraries liberal?
I mean, it's just like, I'm even looking at the photo now because I wanted to remember what it was. And I've read this book to my kid. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's like, we all make mistakes, or everybody makes mistakes. And it's by a really famous child's author. And it, in the background, is not all princesses dress in pink. So it was obviously some sort of event at a library, but every single one of these kids, like one of the kids is dressed as a ladybug.
Right.
Or they have a real life fairy in the room that is teeny tiny. I mean, it's Long Beach. It could happen. But I mean, all the other kids are there dressed in drag too, I guess. It's the drag library.
Right. But I think this is the problem where we really get into satire becoming a problem as far as fake news goes, because you have fake news sites that then say, you know, as soon as they get called out on something, they're like, oh, no, it's just satire. We were just kidding. And
just
that's
joking.
That's like their fail-safe. And I'm not good with that. You can't take my guilty pleasure and make it your crutch to keep operating and giving people disinformation. And this woman, obviously, I don't share a lot of views with her to begin with. And then for her to claim satire is just gross and it's wrong. And take some fucking responsibility for the fact that you're a white nationalist and you are preaching it. Why, if you're so right, why are you saying now that your views were just jokes?
Well, and now it's just going to water down both sides. So she's not going to come out of it looking very good. I mean, she might, because Jesus, we live in an age where no one has to have any repercussions for anything they do anymore. But in the long run, she basically said what she was, and I only say that she's not going to be affected because I saw what happened with Alex Jones. I mean, he went on trial. He said, I don't believe any of this stuff. I'm an entertainer.
Right.
And people still fucking believe him and believe the things he says, despite the fact that he said that. So I think despite the fact she said this, she's not going to get
I'm sure she's going to be brought into the fold, and she's either going to be working for Alex Jones or working for the Daily Stormer or one of those type of groups fairly soon. She's not a bad looking person. She's younger. She's a woman. She's
female.
She can be the spokesperson for the Daily Stormer, you know, whatever. But I hope not. And I hope she loses her teaching license. And I hope that she's not allowed to be teaching middle schoolers social studies anymore.
Yeah, well, good luck, because it's Florida, babe.
Yeah, it is Florida.
So I'm just gonna bring it back to it's Florida. I remember, and I'll just tell you this as a short sidebar, but I remember being chastised in middle school by a teacher who was also a preacher, and because it's Florida, and he lectured me in front of a class for over 5 minutes because I said that I didn't believe in God.
So your teacher, who is also a preacher, love that.
Yes.
And I think that's a really good bumper sticker that you came up with. Good luck. It's Florida, babe.
Yeah.
I mean,
you might as well.
Yeah, they need to be selling that at the border, right at Georgia, Florida. Fun stuff. Okay, so the last problem with satire is that it makes me laugh, and I don't want to lose it. You know?
I don't want to lose it either. There's so much that I think it has done so good.
So good.
And I don't think we're going to lose it. I mean, the one thing I was really looking at when I was looking at the history of political satire is that it has basically existed since we've had organized government.
Absolutely.
We've had political satire.
Yeah.
So
it's been around a really long time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it just gets better. You know, we can look back at things like The Daily Show, and we can look back at things like SNL. I mean, even look at something as famous as, and the most famous one in my opinion is Tina Fey playing Sarah Palin, because they looked so much alike. And she ended up using quotes that Sarah Palin had fucking said, because she is an idiot, but she said it in a different way and made it funny. And made it not so, oh my God, if this person gets elected, it's the fucking apocalypse, because she is one heartbeat away from this presidency. But I think it really made a difference. And I think, you know, we can look at today. I love Trevor Noah, but I don't have cable anymore, so I never really get to watch Comedy Central. I never get to watch The Daily Show, but I do have HBO. And so we watched Last Week Tonight with John Oliver.
Which is amazing.
Yes, it is.
He does an amazing job.
Yeah, he really does. And I wanted to bring it up because back in 2016, before we even knew we were going to have Trump for our president, he has those rants, those 20-minute long rants. That's the big section of his show. And he did one about how we're failing journalism and we're failing as a country to take journalism seriously. And that's why we were in the position we were in. And it was so good. And I think the point that he left it with, it resonated. And I think it resonated to the point where people saw after the election that they really had to stand up and make a difference, because what he was saying is that sooner or later, we're going to have to pay for journalism, or we're all going to pay for it.
Right.
Because everyone wanted their news for free. And we saw right after, once we heard the term fake news and alternative facts.
Right.
Suddenly, you know, people started saying, wait a minute, I'm going to pay for my Washington Post subscription. I'm going to pay for New York Times, because we actually really do need reporters on the ground telling us real news. We can't get our news from Facebook anymore. This can't happen.
So Kelly, I have a question for you. If we ever start a satire portion of our website and start doing satire articles, which is kind of my dream, FYI, can we call it alternative facts?
Yes. Can we get Kellyanne to come in as our contributor?
Oh my God, that would be hilarious. We could totally do a Kellyanne.
We could just have articles written by Kellyanne Conway's drooping eyelash that's falling off after 24 hours of interviews right before the election.
The thing is, her last name is actually Conway. And it's literally, she's like the Conway woman. Yeah. I mean, I can't even change her name to be any better. But yeah. Okay. So that's a plan right there.
All right.
Now, apparently though, satire is a little bit harder than it looks. So I found an article by SplitSider, which is a site that talks about comedy, basically. And so they weren't on Media Bias Fact Check or anything like that, but I read the article. Seems pretty legit. I don't have any problems with it. I don't think it's fake. I read the About section. This is basically a comedy website. But this article is called Satire is Hard, Why Most Onion Ripoffs Don't Work. And this is a little bit older. It's back from November of 2013 by Matt Crowley. And he talks about how he was an editor for a satirical newspaper in college called the Kenyon Collegiate in Ohio. And he was like, it wasn't as easy as it looks. Like, the Onion's really freaking good at what they do. And I think that it looks easy. And so what he was saying is that, you know, that a lot of people are starting to do it. And again, this article is 5 years old. So even back in 2013, they were starting to see a lot of people are starting to do this, and they don't necessarily do it as well as The Onion does, for example. Yeah. So it says in here, it seems that no matter how evident the satirical focus of an article is, someone's not going to get it. And in some cases, however, the misunderstanding goes beyond a few grumps on Twitter. I guess it boils down to, so it says Kyle Scanlon of the Whiskey Journal said this: I think good satire should be intelligent and absurd, not indistinguishable from real life. Pranking people on the internet doesn't take any skill. That said, we will laugh at you if you take an article like Utah found to be lame Colorado seriously. Right. So anyway, and then they go on to talk about the National Report, which I mentioned earlier, had some of those actually kind of funny things on there. And so it says satire, like all humor, is of course somewhat subjective. What delights one person may infuriate another. Any attempt to question the status quo is admirable and necessary, and all these sites have their fans. Well, it's worth asking if they've used their satirical tools effectively and responsibly. In a sense, they've just succeeded by being funny, but not as funny as The Onion. So,
yeah, it's hard. It's hard to pull it. I think a lot of it has to do with headlines. And I think if you can't get a good headline, because it's easier to be funny in long form, it's hard to get that one headline that's just, I mean, sometimes I don't even read Reductress. I just read the headlines, and
That's what I was doing on both the National Report and the Babylon Bee. When I was just reading the headlines and just laughing and chuckling to myself in my little podcasting room here. So it's like, yeah, it is kind of funny. And sometimes you need to sometimes you want to read the article, but sometimes it's really just the headlines that you're looking for.
Right.
Well, what do you think? Satire, yay, nay? Keep it, leave it?
I say keep it. Keep it forever. I love satire. One of the things I was looking at when I did this was just, looking up the basics. And there was a National Annenberg election survey done that said that followers of satire news are more knowledgeable and consume more news than the general population. And I totally agree with that. I feel like I read the news, I do absorb so much news every day, but I look forward to things like John Oliver. The way that I don't look forward to waking up in the news or waking up to the news every morning. It's very daunting. It makes you not want to get out of bed some days.
The Daily Show, John Oliver's show, Samantha's Bee show, Colbert when he was on. Yes. Everybody, it gives you a way to absorb some of this news without it being so depressing, because you're also laughing at the same time.
Yes.
And I think that's why a lot of our generation has switched over to wanting to get their news. Like, people used to really make fun of the fact that people were getting their news from The Daily Show. But I loved getting my news from The Daily Show because it was informative, but it also gave me, I walked away still not feeling horrible and depressed, at the end of it.
Right.
If they're doing something fake, they obviously need to let you know that it's not fake. And I don't think those shows really do fake. It's real news, but with a funny twist, right? Versus, I don't know, the Onion TV or whatever, which I think was short-lived. I'm not sure if it's still on, but you're going to know that those are fake.
And things like
Mad TV.
Yeah.
It's going to be fake.
Yes.
Right. And you know that going in.
Right.
Like, nobody should be surprised.
Right. And I think Funny or Die does a lot of those satirical, political, like they do. I think they're the ones who do Between Two Ferns. And that's very, it can be very, some of it is very funny. Some of it is not. But that's how comedy works. Like, sometimes comedy works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it works in written form and then doesn't work in more of a live action form where they're trying to be more on TV.
So there's one more article that I have real quick, and this was from Pointer as well. And it says, a satirical fake news site apologized for making a story too real. And this was freedomjunction.com did a really bad satire story about the American soldier that was killed in Niger. That's claimed that he was a deserter. Now, they did get called out on it, and they did actually apologize, which is kind of unusual But this was okay, so here's what he said. So this is owned by the infamous hoaxer Christopher Blair, and he said he should have used a fake name and photo. Yeah.
Yeah. The reason that it struck me, because I saw this article when you sent it to me, the reason it struck me as so terrible is that they picked the African-American soldier. And I think that they got pushback because, first of all, it's a soldier. I think if they were just trying to do it as something different, like it seemed very racism wrapped in something else.
For sure.
But they definitely got pushback because, I mean, it's a soldier who was killed, and he was killed for not a very good reason. I mean, everything I hear about this attack, it just indicates no one was actually prepared to do this.
I'm just thinking about, okay, so if you used a fake name and picture, it still wouldn't have been funny. That's not funny.
Right. No, it's not. Like, they're not doing anything to the story to make it seem it's too close. I mean, someone really died.
Somebody really died.
Multiple people really died.
I don't think that this is the story that you picked to satire. Like, there's nothing in here where you're going to walk away, like, chuckling because you're like, oh, that poor guy died and, you know, his poor widow, but that was a good joke. No, I don't.
Yeah, no.
No, it's not. You have to pick the stories that actually have something to laugh about. You know, some of it I think is just like the stories that make really good satire are the ones that are just so freaking incredulous to start with. Like The Onion has a bunch up right now, or one at least, about Stormy Daniels and Sarah Huckabee Sanders. So let me find this really quick.
Well, here's what I just would say while you're looking for that is that what really bothers me about this article, because I looked it over when we were talking earlier, and what bothers me so much about it is not that they tried to pull it off as satire, but the girl doing the podcast, she's by herself. She's not got a bunch of people that she has to take her podcast to and have it published and blah, blah, blah. You can do a podcast and be, you know, just a couple of people or just one person. Yeah, you can, for real. But this article was written by someone, it was submitted, and then it was published, which means at least one other person, probably even more than one person, but I'm going to say at least one other person read this and thought, this is good. I'm going to publish this. This is going to make people laugh. And that's the part that really, really makes me frustrated.
You could be right, but I think a lot of these sites, it's not like they have an editorial process. And that is part of the problem, is that they probably can write whatever the fuck they want, and they just submit it. Because it's basically like you sign up for an AdSense account with Google, and then you start publishing thing under your quote unquote editor site, and you get paid on those clicks. Like, I think that is how it works for a lot of these writers that do the satire, the fake news. So I don't know that they do have somebody looking over these very often. It's really just about, let's get some clicks and make some money. They don't really care what you write about. So, okay, so I found it really quick. So this is the Onion headline, which again, sometimes you just need the headline. Huckabee Sanders warns Stormy Daniels' disclosures just steamy, sexy distraction from real issues.
Oh, poor Sarah.
But how much of that is true? Like, you have a porn star that is suing the president of the United States.
We live in an age of satire right now.
Totally.
I mean, who would have ever thought that this was going to happen?
Don't know.
I mean, even if we took Stormy Daniels suing the president, I mean, a porn star suing the president, what the actual F happened to our political atmosphere that's a good thing, or that's a thing that's going on right now. But I mean, even if you took that out of the equation and you just had shit like the 29-year-old who's leaving the White House to pursue other options because the White House, working for the president in the White House, she needs better options.
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
The same woman who was having an affair with Corey Lewandowski, indicted, and also, what's his face? The
Rob
guy
Porter.
Rob Porter.
Current boyfriend.
Who was physically assaulted both of his ex-wives.
Right.
Yeah, it's I feel like she needs therapy to talk about the men in her life.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah. So
and maybe a career counselor.
Maybe she's going to be a career counselor. I mean, she probably did learn quite a bit. Don't you think?
Oh no. Please don't pass along that knowledge, Hope. Just keep it to yourself. No one will mind. No one's going to be upset about it.
Nobody. Who would have thunk? This is the year where Monica Lewinsky is heralded as a great writer and having really good points. And Hope Hicks, who actually works in the White House, and Omarosa worked in the White House and is now on a reality TV show, basically spilling everything about her time in the White House for Big Brother. It's the weirdest thing. Okay.
She's not on anymore. She was kicked off.
All right. Well, this has been a nice, lighthearted discussion, but we should probably wrap it up and get to our Spread Jam Not Lives.
What was your song of the week, Beth? I'm excited to hear now because we talked about so many options. I don't know which one you actually picked.
Okay, so I found this article called 19 Hit Songs That Were Originally Intended as Jokes. So I thought it would be fun to check this list out and see if there was anything on it that would work well. And I had to go with Beastie Boys, You Gotta Fight for Your Right to Party. So this song is ironic when you look into the background of the song. And so Fight for Your Right was actually the trio's parody of idiotic party rock songs by bands like Motley Crue and Twisted Sister and the people who love them. And so even the music video was just the band making fun of cliched heavy metal clips. But once the band realized that the very crowds they were mocking were using it as an anthem, they denounced it and haven't played it live since 1987.
That's crazy. You know, I did not know that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of songs on here that were really kind of funny. I had a hard time picking. Another one is Blur's Song 2. I love that song.
Yeah.
Another one was Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit is on this list.
I knew that one was Send Off.
Beyonce's Run the World Girls.
Really?
Yeah. Norman Greenbaum's Spirit in the Sky is on this list.
Uh-huh.
And also Beck's Loser is another one that's on this list that we have to put this article up because this article is just kind of like mind-blowing a little bit when you find out some of these songs and what was actually behind them.
Yeah, I remember you and I talked about this, and I was saying my favorite misunderstood song is Pretty in Pink by the Psychedelic Furs, because I love the Psychedelic Furs. I think they're amazing. But if you listen to the song, it is totally not about what John Hughes thought it was about when he made the movie. Because it was like very sweet, innocent girl who had a troubled life and, she had aspirational goals. And that is not what that song is about. That song is it's much more tragic than that. It's much sexier than that as well. So yeah, it's, it was interesting, like when you grow up and you hear songs again that you loved when you were young and hearing them and realizing, wait, this is about sex. There's a lot of sex in this song. Right. Yeah. So I think that's a great choice. I love that song. I don't care if it's,
I mean, who doesn't?
And it came out.
Who doesn't love that song?
It came out when I was young enough that I didn't get that reference, but I did love. I can look back now and I can definitely see some Rat Round and Round in that video. I can see some, Twisted Sister, We're Not Going to Take It Anymore. I could definitely see all those heavy metal videos that were just trash in that.
The funny thing is, it probably opened up the Beastie Boys to more fans that found them through this song. Oh, yeah. And then it also was like letting fans of metal like something beyond metal, like welcoming them into the genre of grunge, and like kind of more of where the Beastie Boys went. So anyway, it was kind of funny. It probably ironically helped a lot of people discover new music.
Probably.
And new bands. So, but yeah, they didn't like it after they found out that it was basically doing the exact opposite of what they thought it would. So that is my satire jam of the week. How about you? What do you got for us?
So this week I have a book, but the book has been made into a documentary. A film that is like a mockumentary type film. And
got it.
I haven't read the book, but I have seen the movie. And because it pertained so closely to what our topic was, I thought I would recommend the movie. And then if people wanted to, they could always read the book. But it's A Futile and Stupid Gesture. And it is on Netflix right now. It's just come out this year. It has Will Forte and Emmy Rossum. It's all about the creator of National Lampoon and how they started the magazine in Harvard and how they took it from the Harvard Lampoon and then turned it into the National Lampoon, and it really didn't do well and they never made any money from it. And then as soon as they started to make money from it, it was very, very good. And I didn't know what was going to happen at the end, so I wasn't expecting it. But Martin Mull does the main character, Doug Kenny. He plays his older persona and does the voiceover, and it's very breaking the fourth wall. And I really enjoyed it. They've got a bunch of people in it who don't look anything like who they're supposed to be, but people like Bill Murray, Gilda Radner, Chevy Chase, all these great old actors, they all used to work on National Lampoon. And fun. And they all, like everyone who started SNL in the very beginning, they were at National Lampoon first.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it was really good, and I really recommend it. It was funny and charming, and it's very good. And
okay, I'm definitely adding that to my list. If I didn't have to work tomorrow, I think I'd watch it right now. That sounds really perfect. Nice. All right, everybody. Well, this is not satire. The episode is ending, and we will see you next time. But until then, spread jam.
Not lies.